you all for coming out. I want to say that this is a very special night because there is a golden thread. Carol's here, Carol Hughes. As we've heard, she procured the reissue of this selected, which Daniel Weisbord and Ted Hughes edited. We have Daniel Weisbord's widow here, Valentina Ponukina, and Erez is himself a winner of the Amichai Prize and in fact the Israel Prize. So it's a very unusual evening, and I just want to thank everyone who's really put themselves out to be here. On New Year's Eve, this is Yehuda's poem, on Rosh Hashanah, next to a house being built, a man vows not to do any wrong in it, only to love in it. Sins that were green in spring have dried out in summer and now rustle and whisper. So I washed my body and trimmed my fingernails, the last favour which a man does for himself while he is still alive. What is man? During the day he breaks up into little words what night has turned into a heavy lump. What are we doing to each other? What does a father do to his son? What a son to his father? And nothing stands between him and death but a thin defence like a battery of excited lawyers, a fence of words. And he who uses people as handles or as steps of a ladder will soon find himself embracing a piece of wood and holding a hand cut from its body and wiping his tears with a potsherd. Okay, from Rosh Hashanah, from New Year, I'm going to read you a poem of my own. It's called The Appeal, but I want to assure any of you who attend synagogue there'll be no pledge card. Here on your soil, we aren't protected. Laws, neighbours we all embrace will fail us or succeed, protect or fail to. We are no different to anyone else, but we're a target which knows the form. Our grandparents, parents, their friends knew, had heard, seen, felt, and either told us with silence, myth, or toothless old mouths, or by not knowing things because their parents had been too dead to teach them, their grandparents because feelings were outlawed as a way to get through. We were trained to point duty without knowing its name, face the purpose it had for us. Oh, you'll say they're not loyal. We look away, move, but understand. Want to separate you from the bloodshed of defending us, ourselves, from the shame of not being defended. Memory, not history, flaws, not fault, humanity's deaths in the absence of duty. Law turned away from fictions espoused, murderousnesses appeased, while its functionaries are made marks. Cut, cut, cut like a swordsman, always after the banner carriers led the charge. Cut, cut, cut on the hashish pipes around which all the promises snaked which planned the latest round of deaths. Cut, cut, cut as everyone defies the latest news intended to strike fear in the enemies of its protagonists. Cut, cut, cut until the era gets tired. And meanwhile, yes, there are starving, drenched, parched, diseased places which want or take piecemeal aid, intervention which baffles, people who know the chop of full-scale war unstoppable, sewers of blood, degree, measure is everywhere, but who sues for peace before a war that's decade revived? Who understands leaders whose generations outlive Hitler, Stalin now? Who knows what language to speak while the Tower of Babel's engineers fall daily? Their hod carriers beg not to climb the scaffold. What talks to all lost and extant beliefs that point to the supremacist watches with open eyes as you lie down, rise up, walk by the way, observe, so you can't say you didn't see. This poem's called Now the Rhetoric. Now the rhetoric begins to cloud us, prepared by music, rhythmed by fear, hypnotized, rat-a-tatted, rocked back and forth, strike the heart. Again and again the exhortation. What does that country have for you now the caliphate's been declared? And with promises, inducement, veil and assertive threat, again men, dictators, sadists, power-crazed, blood-eyed history wakes up its limp excuse for a way forward, while Darfur seeks a woman president to do things differently, find a new way. A small hand slices above the head, while heads are severed. The rule of law, custom, ritual are bled of heat. God the judge ventriloquized by murderers who silence with guns, knives, hands, households, fear the spill of words, while you think, mine, love, invest life. The road forward backs, moaned about, reasoned, mocked, ignored. It won't be newspapers that bring you through, radios which link your arms. These have failed you, made you commerce, trained your base faculties, left you as stunned as the rhetoric, as dumb. The fumbled, ungrammatic web offers to answer your search forays with voyeuristic curios to teach you to be more human, forget the birds of war, bleed the richer soil of tailored news which smells the past in rain, heat-baked, cracked, ooze crumbled, flesh is government, grains choices, nursed industry, toddled ventures, mother, daughter, granddaughter, shared corridors of power, sistered, brothered, I-watched old men, retired for a generation, rite of passage, trained to reason, kept pink of foot, ritualized, reminded, loved, fed, not allowed to hunt for food, made to plant, harvest, surrender their tools at the hearth. This and no less calls could be seen. Marina Svetaeva was in exile in Paris in the late 20s and early 30s, and it was during that period where she said, all poets are Jews. So defend us, so the poem is called All Poets are Jews. So defend us, silent English sisters, brothers. The taste of our names is growing bitter in our own mouths. We're sore with the sojourn. We thought to have settled. Computers have been the latest channel for the oldest of calumnies to become currency while no one noticed they'd been given an old script to act, to pixelate for caressed touchscreens, laptops, smarter phones, hooked, lined, sinkered, throttled, piled in a rotted basket, so many of us turn up, silent palms, make inane jokes, huddle in communities, love, self-hate, identify, differentiate, practice, atheize, agnosticize, intellectualize. new, old, scholastic, theistic ideas. Oh, that we like Israelis could just be rather than spend so much of our time, because you force us to, trying to understand ourselves, to explain, justify, not as an exercise like our sages, Rabbeim, Taneim, but as an apologia. Not in my name. What is my name? History's not this, that, other. Whatever it is, it's everyone's. We see what's demanded, done, shown, now in a new language with old declensions. Years ago you heard its whisper, felt its breath on your skin, abstracted, because it was something you were supposed not to notice. Do poets notice? Where are your lines? Aren't you going to say anything at all? Why is that? Will screens, Kindle, blogs, films broadcasted record you? See, hear, divine the latest scree put on your steep path? Will we be alone again? 100 Years' War. This is the most important moment in the last 15 years and the next 85, a new exoticized repression. Enjoy opera about benign supremacists interspersed with elegant picnics course by course, reassured over champagne, insulated. This is the most important moment in the last 15 years and the next 85. And over again you reason that and that and that would be enough to make me terrorize, as though you can explain, relieve, own the mayhem with reason, transform it by your act of imposed, assumed humanity. In Iran, the bloggers say you in the West fail to grasp the double glance of their leaders, westward, eastward, for you, for them, and lift sanctions with a focus on ISIL, while Syria, Yemen, Gaza, Lebanon don't fit the puzzle. It's untidy, but paying for their boys to die doesn't seem to confuse you. There are no smiles, metaphors, strophes that whistle in the trees under the Glyndebourne which shades you. There's no silence either in my bowed head, or when I try to hold my back straight. My children live in impossible times and run amok as children do. Their fears are masked in where they'll work, who they'll love. Not a lot is said about before war came explosions, instead of the war games they play on consoles. It's impossible now they're old enough to sense that we'll grow away from the front if we're as lucky as we've been so far, although we remember our parents' wounds. Oh, tell me when to speak, write, when to stay silent, how to teach the when to pray, hold faith, take up arms. This is a poem from a short series in my new book, Jam in Jerusalem, and I'm very obliged to Frank Auerbach, who gave me a beautiful picture to put on the cover. This is a short series called Four Corners, and this is the third in that series, and it's a series about containment. Thumb tip to flattened palm, little finger raised up in alarm. Square of terror blocks out the light, breaks hold, disables her from the fight. Her squared hand, the ache in her spine, the lock of her knees, the silence of the mind. And why always so passive, never clenched into a fist? Why ask herself questions before she acts, checks off her list? The dilemmas fork, conundrums arc, circle squared, the can we talk? What would be so wrong in answering back? Wrong or right, unfiltered this or that? When did she learn to be so measured when everyone else was so self-assured? Whoever told her it wasn't her turn until she was too old to learn. Thumb tipped to flattened palm, little finger stretched to contain the alarm. Okay, so this is my final very short poem. It makes reference to the first Torah, which was Bible, which was published in book form in Portugal in 1482. And I'll just mention that Jews always like anniversaries, so, and the sadder the better in a way. Tonight's the 5th of Kislev, and on the 5th of Kislev, 1497, that was the last day Jews were allowed to be in Portugal. So, yeah. I didn't mean the sadder the better, that was a very bad thing to say, I didn't mean that. It should be remembered. Shtum. Oh yeah, I wrote this after the Chagim, after the big run of festivals in the autumn, a couple of years ago. Shtum. Baked challahs, built sukkahs, forgiven fasts, eaten enemies, entertained families, visited friends, exhausted conversation, returned to poems, prayers, texts, as beautiful as Lisbon Bibles. 15 good years to go. Forgotten anti-Jew marchers. Our friends comfort us, worried, angrier than we allow ourselves to be, more outspoken. But it's our enemies we watch, dumb, then conjecture. In here we talk, but not outside. Outside we keep shtum. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much for coming, but mostly I'd like to thank the poets for sharing their wonderful poetry with us this evening. Yeah.